Football at 4 on the way. Adam Caplan is here. He's in Indianapolis at the Combine. We're going to go back to the Combine tonight at 5 o'clock and check in on some of the big stories out there. Michael Kasky-Blomain's going to talk a little Sixers at 5:30 tonight as they take on the Bucks tomorrow night. Let's go to Adam Caplan now for another edition of Football at 4. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Mike, I am well here. We just got strapped up some events here, and we got the first bad weather. This has been kind of amazing, Mike, this week, because typically when we come to Indianapolis in late February, early March, it's 20s to 40 degrees, snowy sometimes, and people want to walk inside. I don't know if you've been here before. You can literally downtown almost walk inside everywhere without having to go outside. So just today, we got our first rainfall. It's been in the 40s, lots of rain, but the workouts have started. They started actually yesterday and today, and then I will be, the cool thing we should note, the media for the first time ever, the full media contingent, not just selected people. I've gone to the workouts before, but they're letting all the media members in for all of the workouts, all 7 hours. If you want to go, you can go. They're putting us in a section, and I'm going to go tomorrow to watch the quarterbacks.
Yeah, very cool. I know Bryce Young, the quarterbacks, they spoke today. Young says he expects to weigh 200. That's going to be interesting. Anthony, what's it called? Anthony Richardson. Right. He said, look at me as a combination of Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson. C.J. Stroud says, I don't want to go to the Bears. That's Justin Fields' team. So these guys are all putting their flag in the ground to try to make an impression early, it looks like. Yeah,
it's fun. Look, Richardson was very lively. He's kind of a raw quarterback. He only had 1 year of starting experience, but he's very gifted. So the teams will have to get through kind of what they think he could be at the next level. He's the kind of guy that most people think needs to sit year one. So maybe a veteran would have to start wherever he goes. And I do expect him to go in the first round. I couldn't tell you where, because he's a projection. You have to believe at some point over the next 2 or 3 years he'll be a starter. Whereas Bryce Young should be able to start year one. Will Levis, he's got the ability to start year one. I don't think there's any question about it. And by the way, he's throwing, and he's excited to throw tomorrow. As he said, he's got a cannon of an arm. Why would he not want to show that off? And Stroud, to me, he's right there with Young. I mean, it would surprise me at all if Stroud's the first quarterback taken.
Well, Young gets measured tomorrow. He's the big story. Does it matter? Do his measurables matter, or is he the number one pick when we leave here regardless?
Yeah, teams know, well, the number one pick is the Bears currently hold it, and if they keep it, they're not going to take a quarterback. In fact, I talked to two teams this week who've talked to the Bears, and they made it known to them where they're just talking and asking about certain players that their impression was that they're not going to move Fields. And so the question then would be, what do the Bears do at number one? Because the kid Carter, who's got the off-the-field issue, and we can get into that, there's just no way he can go number one based on what we know. No matter what happens afterwards, it's all about trust.
All right, let's get into that because there's an interesting scenario with all the quarterbacks, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, as you mentioned, if 3 or maybe 4 of those guys go in the top 5. I know that's a long shot here, but that starts pushing guys down the board, coupled with some off-the-field things, Adam Caplan. I think you know where I'm going. So could the Eagles really think about Jalen Carter in the first round if he starts to fall to 6, 7, 8 in that range?
Okay, yeah, and remember they have what 10 and 30. What the Eagles are 10 and 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yep.
Right. So look, here's what I know, and people say there's no way they would do it. One thing you got to understand is it's all about what kind of information you gather, and then the player. So one GM told me this week if his team decided they wanted to draft or had serious interest, they'd bring him into their building for one of the top 30 visits. They would already have all the security information on them from their own security people and the league's security people. And they would sit them down eye to eye. Okay, we have our information on you. What can you tell us about what happened? And they would grill them, and they want to see him eye to eye, and then they'll decide if they would trust him or not. Now, misdemeanors, sometimes people don't think that's serious. It's actually what's been alleged has been serious, whether 2 misdemeanors or not. And he says, he's presumed he's maintaining his innocence here, but it's ugly. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The stuff that's been that Carter's been accused of it's not good. And if it came down to him being there at number 10, or whether the Eagles would trade out or take him or not, it comes down to what information you have. Now, if it all checked out, if they feel like it's not as bad as it's been portrayed, and they checked his off the field history for the totality of his career and go back to his high school days, you have to look at it because the Eagles have issues at defensive tackle. They have several guys up. The 2 starters are up. And you've got Milton Williams, who's seen as the 3rd D tackle, and Jordan Davis, who has to play. So they've got an opening. There's no question about it. I just wouldn't rule it out. People are just ruling everything out. You got to get your information first, then make a decision.
Well, and I'll follow up with this, Adam, is we know that's a position that the Eagles value. I mean, we know that that's a spot they have no problem drafting in the first round. I mean, it's different from corner, safety, linebacker. They'll take a tackle at 10. We know that. And if the best one's there that they can get at 7, 8, they feel like, hey, this is a difference maker, I would not be shocked in the least bit if they pulled the trigger to move up a couple spots to ensure they got him.
Well, again, it's real simple. If they're not comfortable with it, they wouldn't draft him in any round. I remember Mark Dock, the Bucks GM, former Bucks GM, who I work with at ESPN, telling me it's like if you're not comfortable in the first round or the second round, if you're not comfortable with his information, why would you be comfortable in like the 5th round? Because yes, the risk is lesser, but
that's
if you
true.
think you might miss on the pick, that's the thing. You have to be careful. It's all about the information you get. This is 22 years of doing this,
right?
And I've kind of learned it's strictly on the information you gather and your comfortability with it.
Adam, this is obviously like you're talking about when sometimes you get medical information or off the field. That's different.
Sure.
If they get told, look, you're a red flag, you're an DK Metcalf, undraftable because of medical information.
Honestly, though, I think medical's a little different. I remember Bill Polian telling me that one of the few times in his career he would have overruled if he could go back, he probably would have overruled his team doctors and Rob Gronkowski, because the question wasn't whether Gronkowski could play, it's how long, and that determines which round you go in. Jay Ajayi, who, for example, I reported when I was at ESPN that teams thought he would only play 4 or 5 years due to the bone-on-bone condition, and he dropped to the 5th round, I think, if I'm not mistaken, without looking it up. And he, as you know, he'd become a former Eagle. Well, teams, if they only think you're going to get one contract because he's called a one-contract player, you're not going higher in the 5th round. Now, medical is completely different than off the field.
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah, just, there's an example of you might like that player, but the medical's saying, I can't draft you in this spot right here. Similar to off the field. Hey, I might like you, but we're being told you have too much off the field red flag. So just because we like you, we can't take you here. You're also saying that would extend deeper into the draft.
Yeah, it just depends on, like, okay, let's stay on the off the field stuff. Depends what it is. I mean, look, we were all immature in our 20s. I know I sure was. I'll admit it. There's certain things I probably wasn't proud of, as doing stupid stuff that kids do. Yeah, and if I was a first-round talent, they would go back and compare it. Because, look, as some GMs have told me over the years, find a perfect prospect that's never done anything. It's hard to find that. It's hard to find something that the kid hasn't done off the field. Sure, they're plenty of clean prospects, but you have to do your due diligence, and that's what these teams will do. But it brings up a fascinating situation because, Mike, we're in the media room on Wednesday morning, and we're waiting for Carter to show up, and he wasn't there. We're like, what? Okay, what's this about? And then we'd find out 1 hour later why. It was definitely a surprise at the Combine.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4. The Raiders plan to place the franchise tag on Josh Jacobs if they cannot get a deal, so the market might be there for a guy like Miles Sanders. So with that, Adam Caplan, what's the plan at running back if there is no Sanders and he walks?
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, that's been the feeling that they're really going back to Super Bowl, that Jacobs would be going nowhere, and this is the guy that was going to be a big part of the Raiders offseason. But because of his injury history, it's hard to work out a long-term contract, so this is going according to the way we expected. Now, just to clarify something on Sanders, because people are acting like there's no way the Eagles will re-sign him. I would not say that, Mike. First of all, and this is not a knock on Sanders, he's not in Saquon Barkley's league or Derrick Henry, although Henry's kind of fading, but he's shown he could carry a team, or Nick Chubb. Well, Nick Chubb and Henry are making $12.5 million a year. Sanders is not that back. He's just not. He's a nice player. But here's a scenario where he could come back. Let's say he gets nothing better than $6 or $7 million a year. Well, that could be in the Eagles' range. Mm-hmm. So that's why I would just be careful of people assuming, oh, this guy won't come back. Yeah, you have to know what the market looks like. Because a lot of the times these teams will tell a player, hey, go get your best deal. Don't sign anywhere else. Let us know what it looks like, and we'll see. If you give us a chance to match it, we'll match it. So I'm just saying.
Well, Adam, I think
he's going to leave.
I think fans are starting to think there's a better chance that Sanders does come back.
Oh, is that right?
Well,
Really?
just
I didn't know
because
that. Okay.
that's the sense I'm getting, is because of all the running backs on the market and where he kind of
Yeah.
slots in, and that teams might say, look, you could probably, the spot track number of his market value was like $7 million a year. Well, if he doesn't get that from someone and he wants to play for the Eagles, he's already kind of voiced that. So maybe the Eagles say, you know what, for $6.5 million, I'll bring you back here.
Yeah, so we're going to have a note. We're going to have some free agent nuggets on Monday morning for our show, Inside the Birds, that drops on all platforms, and we're going to have an update on Sanders, kind of where we see this direction going. I'm just saying that the market will tell him because he's primarily a first and second down back. When you're not a 3-down back, you're not making double digits per year. You're just not. So the question is, I had pegged him for $6 to $6.5 million a year, somewhere around the James Conner contract. Is he better and more talented than Conner? Yeah. Is he younger? Yeah. He has injury history like Conner, but Conner has shown better versatility. So again, it's agents and clubs use comps, and we know Conner's missed significant time in his career. Well, so is Sanders. Not quite as much, but again, first and second down backs, they're not getting that big deal.
You see any scenario where Kenny Gainwell and Trey Sermon are the two backs in camp as the main guys?
No. It would be Sanders or we'll have some names for you Monday morning, Mike. I would think they would look toward the free agent market too. Mm-hmm. We had noted this a couple of months ago on Inside the Birds that Sermon would not be cut because there were a couple of roster moves they had to make with guys coming off IR, and our first inclination was, Sermon doesn't play, so why would they? He's always inactive. He had 2 carries this season against Jacksonville in the rain, 2 for 27. It's kind of like a running joke on our show. We all know it's 2 for 27, and we just assume, we did want to check into it, and we were told, no, he's not being cut. The coaches want to look at him. And then you heard Sirianni say it at some point over the last couple of months that I'm going to definitely at the end of the season, he said, look, let's take a look at him. And that's kind of what we were told. And then Gainwell, here's the thing with Gainwell. He's got to be more consistent. Like, yeah, he came on late in the season. We know he's more gifted than he's shown, but he needs to be more consistent, particularly on not just be a third down back. You need to show on early downs that you could get 5-7 yards every now and then.
Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com. We'll leave with this. The Eagles ranked 14th overall in an NFLPA survey from its players. This thing has been really interesting. This was kind of a cool one. Yeah. Some teams that charge for one team, actually, that charges for lunch and facilities and nutrition and weight room. Eagles, middle of the pack, a little upper of the middle of the pack, right over the middle of the pack, I guess. 14th out of 32.
See, what happened, Mike, was because 2 of the grades were not graded. One of the grades was for, and you probably know about this, at the link, there's not really a family area. And I know this has been a problem for agents and some of the players over the years, for players' families. I know they got dinged for that, but Sirianni got high grades. In fact, that's in the report. We're going to actually talk about this on Monday. I think it's very important on our show because it's really fascinating. I know they've taken questionnaires before, but I've not seen this before. They had 7 different grades for each NFL team, and the training staff got very high marks. It's just that, and then I think the locker room size is an issue, and you've been there before. It's not the biggest locker room, and but the good thing is they're big fans of Jeffrey Lurie, and they didn't mention Harry Roseman in the write-up. In fact, most GMs were not mentioned. It's more ownership and whether they're willing to spend money.
What's interesting about, we think about this now, the link is what, 2004 or 5? I mean, that's going on 20 years old almost. Yeah,
no. Yeah, in fact, when was NovaCare opened up? What year was the NovaCare complex open? I cannot remember.
The NovaCare complex, let's see. Right about
the link was 03,
yeah,
right?
The link was 03. The NovaCare complex was 2000 it's like 22 years old right now. So
I thought it was before. Yeah, I thought it was before the link.
2001 is when it opened.
And remember how innovative it was, and we understood why they did it. So the interesting thing to finish this, Mike, is how will the Eagles respond? Will they try upgrade the locker room a little bit? Because I don't know how much room they have. That's a question. And will they take, because he's very player friendly, so now he knows about this. Will they take care of the issue at the link?
By the way, team travel, they got a D. They got a D for travel.
And you know why? Because they're one of the few teams that does not have first class travel for like a first class area. I think on their plane. I think that's something I've heard from player agents. if I'm not mistaken. But but overall, they got pretty good marks. It's just a couple things they got dinged for.
Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds podcast, Monday morning. A new one drops. Check it out with Adam and Jeff. Thanks, bud.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff's back on Monday for football at 4. He is at the Combine. Adam is at the Combine.